He played so well to the click, everyone was so impressed, because not everyone can play that well.
I hear the same complaints about click tracks constantly. It makes things sterile, there's no vibe, it sounds robotic. And not just from drummers, it's coming from guitar players, bassists, even vocalists. I've seen full-blown meltdowns over it, and I don't mean an "oh, the click kills my feel" kind of thing. It was straight up anger. And I think deep down it was based on fear. They were scared that they wouldn't be able to keep up with it. You see, the click forces you to confront your timing, and that's scary if you've been winging it your entire life. I remember back in the late 90s and early 2000s, getting a band to use a click track in the studio felt like staging an intervention. Everyone knew the drummer would blow up, so they'd tiptoe around the idea like, how do we bring this up without derailing the entire project? It sounds insane now, but that was the reality. And even today, that resistance hasn't totally gone away. There's still this fear that playing to a click is going to suck the soul right out of your performance or expose just how truly shitty you are, but trust me, playing to a click is not going to turn you into a robot. There are tons of musicians with insane feel who always play to a click, live, in the studio, wherever. For some reason, they're using a click and it's not sounding sterile, lifeless, and robotic. So what's the deal? How come some people say that click tracks destroy vibe and other people swear by it? The answer comes down to two things. One, musicians with bad feel and sloppy playing are going to sound bad with or without a click. The click just exposes it. Two, the first time they ever used a click was in a high-stress environment like in the studio. They used it improperly and had a borderline traumatic experience. So instead of actually helping the music, it hurt it. Today I'm going to show you how to stop fearing the click and start using one of the most powerful creative and technical tools in your entire workflow. For those who don't know me, I'm Eyal Levi, CEO of URM Academy. I've been a producer and a guitarist in my band DOS since 1999 and have been playing way longer than that. Let's get into it. First of all, for anyone not familiar, a click track is exactly what it sounds like from the name. It's a rhythmic pulse that plays back through your headphones or monitors while you're recording, practicing, or playing live. Essentially, it's like a metronome to make sure everyone's playing in time. And that might sound obvious, but this is a relatively new thing, at least to the extent that it's being used nowadays. If you look at a lot of your favorite albums before a certain year, even if they sound tight and feel great, most of them were recorded without a click. The tempo is usually all over the place on those old records. For example, on the famous Slipknot song People Equal Shit, that intro blast beat, which I think is fantastic, I love how it feels, but it jumps in tempo from like 220 to 280 in just a few seconds. Check this out. That was definitely not to a click, nor should it have been. Now, if you're wondering why anyone would object to playing with something that would help them stay in time, in order for me to explain that, I gotta go back to the beginning. When I was growing up, I remember the old school metronome. You know, the box with the pendulum swinging back and forth. My violin and piano teachers would try to make me practice to one, and as a 4 or 5 year old, I fucking hated it. Then, when I started playing guitar at around the age of 12, my guitar teacher never even mentioned a metronome, so my method to getting faster was just to play with kids who were faster than me and try to match them, and it worked to a degree. I did get a little bit faster, but my technique was really sloppy. It wasn't until I was 15 that I found this book, Speed Mechanics for Lead Guitar by Troy Stetna. He talked about using a metronome with the exercises in there, and that's where I really started. That was the first time I had actual technical exercises and used a metronome properly. The level of improvement that I made over the next 2 months was an order of magnitude greater than the improvement I made over the past 2 years. And to this day, if I'm trying to work on technique or get something faster, nothing beats a click. The pros, the players with insane feel and precision are not afraid of the click because they practice with it so much that it's become a part of them. They've got into a level where they're not even thinking about it anymore. I've heard some drummers say that when you're truly locked in, the click just disappears. The reason so many people think that click kills their feel is because their first time ever using it is under pressure in the studio. I learned about this the hard way, trying to talk bands I was producing into using a click on their recordings. And the times that I did win that battle, if I did convince the drummer to use the click on the recording, if they hadn't practiced to one beforehand, it turned into a complete, utter, total fucking disaster. And that creates a vicious cycle. The drummer tries it, they're so focused on playing to the click that their feel suffers. They have a bad experience, and from that day on, they associate the click with feeling robotic and bad. They believe the click is evil, but they haven't actually done the work to see what's possible. So you're not going to make that mistake. You're going to use the click as a tool to get better. And it's the smart thing to do. especially if you plan on playing live with modern gear and using in-ear monitors. Now, let's talk about the studio, and we can start by destroying the myths that clicks and grids sterilize recordings. But first, it's important to understand why people use clicks and grids in the studio. Number one, timing for the performers. The musicians play tighter. 2, easier editing. Try editing drums without a grid. Good luck. 3, delays and time-based effects. A great way to make a solo sound like gibberish is to use out-of-time delays. 4, MIDI. If there's no grid, where do your MIDI notes go? Just asking questions. And as a side note, practicing to a click and recording to a click are two completely different things, and I think you should do both. I suggest you do both, but the one that's more important, in my opinion, is practicing to a click. Why wouldn't you want to be the tightest musician you can possibly be? And you don't need to use a click in the studio to have a grid. I need to reiterate, I personally prefer recording to a click, but you do not need to use a click to have a grid. You can always conform the grid to a click-free performance after the fact. It's a common feature in most DAWs. I know Pro Tools, Cubase, and Reaper do it. I'm sure all the others do too. Here's a clip of Christian Donaldson doing it on Cryptopsy Nail the Mix, where he remixed one of their classics from the 90s that was definitely not recorded to a click.
Most of the time, it's no big deal if you want to go with it, but I wanted to have the delays to be synced, so I just remade a tempo map with what I had. I used my good old friend Beat Detective. So what you just do, and I just count the bars. 2, 3, 4. Here, you know that this is bar 1. So if you just take your beat generator, you just capture, if you tell them this is 1 bar, you can generate the click here. And then you keep on going for the rest of the song.
If you want to try this, a really good method is to actually record the band playing the song live a few times without a click. Get their best, most energetic take. It's usually going to take 3 or 4 runs through the song before the band is really cooking, and then just go into your DAW and create the grid off of that performance. Some of the most iconic, best-feeling metal records were recorded without a click. Think Pantera or Slipknot's Iowa. You also have bands like Nails that get chaotic raw feel by not using one. But there are plenty of sick-feeling bands that have used a click in the studio, like Meshuggah, Black Dahlia Murder, Gojira, and many, many more. There are pros and cons to both. For instance, when you're playing live, especially with in-ears, having a click makes it much easier for everyone to stay tight, especially when you can't hear each other perfectly on stage. But let's keep the focus on the studio. Let's say you do want to use a click on your recording. One of the biggest potential mistakes you can make is finding one tempo and sticking with it throughout the entire song. Now, keep in mind, I said potential because there's lots of songs that are only one tempo that sound and feel great. That said, a lot of those old records feel so good because the drummer would naturally speed up or slow down to make a part feel right. They would find what I call the Goldilocks zone tempo. A verse might feel better a few BPM slower than a chorus. They would do this naturally by feel, but you can do this with a click. It's called tempo mapping. Instead of just setting a static BPM in your DAW, you can program tempo changes. You can have a verse at 180, the chorus at 182, even have a slight ramp up in the fills. Really, whatever you want to do tempo-wise, you can program that in. Joey Jordison, for instance, used to rush his fills a lot, and it felt awesome. I know those first 2 Slipknot records were done without a click, and if you listen, the drum parts, and especially the fills, are all over the place tempo-wise, rushing like mad, but it feels amazing. If you want to record to a click, but you also want to include those natural tempo fluctuations, you can do it with a tempo map. Now, all that's great if you're a producer, but what if you're also a musician and you need to get ready for something that's coming up, or you just want to level up your playing in general? Using a click is the #1 way to get there, and here's some methods that have worked really well for me. First, let's talk about building speed. Using a click as a speed trainer is universally used by musicians everywhere. The most common way is to pick a speed you're comfortable with, practice that, and then every day try to increase it a little bit. Over time, you increase your speed quite a bit, and that's a good method. Try it and true. But there are a couple more advanced techniques you can try right now for much faster results. These are great if you need to make crazy gains in a very short amount of time. Like for instance, you have a guitar solo you need to record in 2 weeks, and there are some parts that are just not coming together. The first is the 8/4 method, which I learned from Dan Sugarman from Ice Nine Kills. Here's Dan talking about it.
What I mean by the 8/4 method is effectively a 2-to-1 tempo ratio game. What we're going to be doing here is finding our threshold tempo first. And what I mean by that is we're going to find the breaking point. Take this line, play it as fast as you can while it still sounds good, and you're going to call that your threshold tempo. Then what we do is we back off 4 from there. 4 beats below your threshold tempo is going to be your safety zone, and this is where we'll begin for you. What we're going to be doing is going from 100 up to 108, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We go up to 108, down to 104, up to 112, down to 108, and all I'm going to be doing here is not getting bogged down in the details too much. The point of this is to flow through these tempos without getting consumed in mastering one for too long.
Another great one, especially for learning and getting specifically difficult parts up to tempo, is to do it in fragments. And I learned this from my bandmate, Rafael Trujillo. Instead of starting slow and building up, you set the click to the actual goal tempo for the part of the song.
Short patterns are easier to control and easier to correct in real time. If you play a long lick, it's hard to notice the small mistakes right away. But when the pattern is short, you can immediately hear or feel when something is wrong. That way you can fix it instantly before it becomes a habit.
But what about the big complaint that the click kills your feel? Well, that's true if your feel is bad to begin with, but the good news is that you can improve your feel. Here's how you can use the click to make your internal clock rock solid. Instead of having the click on every beat, 1, 2, 3, 4 in a 4/4 bar, have it only on 2 and 4. That means that beats 1 and 3 are silent, and it forces you to really feel them inside your head. By not hearing the 1, you have to internalize it, to anchor it. It's an amazing technique for practicing scales, riffs, beats, whatever. I'm just going to demonstrate this real quick. So here we have a handy metronome app. This is the Riff Hard metronome. As you can see, beats 1, 2, 3, and 4 are selected. So what you're going to want to do is remove beats 1 and 3. So you've only got 2 and 4. Now you're going to be tempted to hear this like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's wrong. You have to actually hear it as 2, 4, 2, 4, like this. 2, 4, 2, 4. Now that's going to be confusing at first. So what I suggest you do is you count along and count the 1, 2, 3, 4, including the silent beats, kind of like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get used to it, you're going to notice that your timing and feel just gets way, way better. It's crazy. This is a fantastic, fantastic technique. Maybe one of the best ones I've ever learned about in my entire musical career. Use it. So if you want to take it to an even more advanced level, set the click to only be on beat 3. That's pretty advanced, but it makes you really feel the 1, 2, and 4. But if you can do that, your timing is going to be spot the fuck on. So the next time you're playing with or recording a band, if it feels sterile, don't blame the click. Ask yourself why. Does a part need to be sped up? Does it need to be slowed down? What's causing it to feel that way? Maybe you need to create a tempo map from a live performance. There are so many solutions. The techniques I showed you today are a great place to start. And if you want to see how the best producers in the world apply these concepts on real records, you should check out Nail the Mix. You also get the actual multi-tracks from bands like Lamb of God, Gojira, and Periphery to mix yourself. Link is in the description. That's it for me. Leave me a comment below letting me know if you've tried any of these click track techniques, or if you have one I didn't share that works really well for you. As always, like, share, subscribe, comment. See you next time.